And that's when I realized that what I was feeling wasn't just fear, it was grief. Grief over the progress that we thought we had made. Grief over the safety that we should be able to trust. Grief over a system that doesn't see us as fully human. Hi, my friend, and welcome to the Bounce Back Black Woman podcast. I'm Dell, and with God's help, I've overcome some of the toughest trials in life that I could ever have imagined. Do you find yourself struggling to move beyond a heartbreak or a hardship, asking God, why me? Well, I'm here to help women just like you heal and build the resilience to overcome life's greatest trials. If you long for joy and confidence again, this podcast is for you. So grab your headphones and those hardships. Let's talk. Hey there, my friend, and welcome back to Bounce Back Black Woman. This is part 2 of our 3-part series entitled Resilience in an Age of Division. And in episode 26, we named the storm. We talked about the weight of living surrounded by hatred and hostility, and how to guard your peace when the world feels hostile. Today we're going a step further. We're talking about grief. Not just grief over events themselves, but grief over what we expected life, leadership, or systems to even look like, and the heartbreak of realizing that real life might be very, very different. And before we dive in, let me remind you, if you're not already receiving the Bounce Back weekly newsletter, you are missing out on encouragement and behind the mic reflections that I only share there. So make sure to head over to bouncebackblackwoman.com or check the show notes and sign up to receive the free weekly newsletter. It'll keep us connected beyond the podcast. Now, one of the things I remember about working a corporate job was the very clear distinction between work and life. And that separation became almost impossible during seasons of my greatest grief, when I went through some of my toughest trials: divorce, the death of a spouse, the illness of a child. I still had to show up and perform. And I know many of you can relate to that, because most of us have had to put our heads down at work, trying to just function without talking about what's going on in the world. We tell ourselves, keep it professional, don't talk about politics, and all sorts of other rules of engagement. But when you share the same values on paper, there's a difference between those who believe in equality from a distance and those who live the lack of it each and every day. And the thought of having to educate those around us who don't move through the world as the targeted ones, that can be exhausting. And many of you know exactly what I mean. Because when tragedy strikes, some colleagues can debate it at the coffee machine and then go back to business as usual. Meanwhile, many of the Black and Brown team members are hoping that their families and themselves make it home safely that night. That's not politics. That's survival. As a Black woman, and as the mother of 3 Black young adults, a Latina daughter-in-law, and biracial grandsons, I can't ignore the intersectionality of my reality. The weight doubles, and the fear, it multiplies. Not long ago, I visited the African American History Museum here in Washington, D.C. This was the second time I had been there, and this time I went with my best friend. She is a white woman, and she has biracial children and grandchildren. As we walked through those halls, we were often speechless and moved sometimes to tears. seeing the history of this country and the progress that we thought that we had made, and realizing how dangerously close we are to sliding backward. And that's the heartbreak. Discovering that the system you thought was finally bending toward equality still has hands trying to pull it back the other way. And here's the part that hit me personally, my friend. I am a fair-skinned black woman. I have a black beauty mark in the center of my forehead, and I've often been mistaken for being Middle Eastern. And the other day, as I was heading into the District of Columbia, I caught myself thinking, maybe I should carry my passport with me, just in case I get stopped or detained or questioned or my citizenship questioned. That's how heavy this reality is, friend. That's how much the system is weighing on us. And that's when I realized that what I was feeling wasn't just fear. It was grief. Grief over the progress that we thought we had made. Grief over the safety that we should be able to trust. Grief over a system that doesn't see us as fully human. So how do we live with that kind of grief? Because it can destroy you from the inside out if you let it. I want to give you permission today. The first thing I want to give you permission to do is to not pretend everything is fine. You don't owe anyone a mask, not at work, not at school, or not with your friends. The second thing I want to give you permission to do is to choose your news intake wisely. Watch as much or as little as you need to be able to process what is going on. And remember that you don't owe anyone 24/7 commentary. Your thoughts and feelings are your own, and when they need to stay private or just for your inner circle, you have every right to keep them that way. 3, name the betrayal. It is valid to grieve the fact that lawmakers are blatantly changing laws without honoring the democracy that they are supposed to represent. In this day and age of social media, not much is done in the dark anymore. And while it's good to know what's happening behind the scenes, it can be overwhelming. And it can cause you to spiral because you're getting any and everything in real time. So be careful with that and limit your intake. End relationships when necessary. This one's going to be controversial because we've been taught that people are our friends no matter what. And as long as they're not doing the hurting, we should still be friends. But sometimes disagreements on core values is different than disagreements on surface level issues. It is okay to grieve relationships that can't survive the weight of this current reality. It's a line in the sand, friends. And sometimes you have to choose what side of that line you are going to stand on. And remember, grief is not weakness. It's honesty. Habakkuk 1, 2, and 3 says this: "How long, O Lord, must I call for your help? But you do not listen. Violence is everywhere. I cry, but you do not come to save me. Must I forever see these evil deeds? Why must I watch all this misery? Wherever I look, I see destruction and violence." And friend, when I tell you that prophet's words could be written today, especially with the constant noise and reporting of social media, the news outlets on television and radio and the internet, what I know is that God gives us space to lament honestly. But lament is not the end. Lamentations 3:22 and 23 reminds us, the faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness. His mercies begin afresh each morning. And what that means, friend, is that even in grief, God's compassion is steady. Each morning, there's a new mercy to meet us. So why does grief hurt so much? And particularly, why does this sort of grief hurt so much? Well, it's because when systems fail, it shakes the very ground that we stand on. And it's not just one single event. It's the betrayal of safety, belonging, and fairness. The things that each and every human being longs for. And that's why we grieve. Because what we thought was progress can feel like it's slipping through our very fingers. And there's not much we can do about it. So here's the takeaway, my friend. Grief is not weakness. It's the holy process of releasing the illusions so we can face reality with clarity. Acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means telling the truth about where we are and choosing to live faithfully inside of that very truth. So here's a journal prompt for you. What expectation of this country, this system, or this season am I grieving? And what might acceptance look like for me? So as you journal that, I'd love to hear what comes up for you. I'd love to hear what you are learning about the way you are coping with our current reality. So feel free to send me an email at hello@bouncebackblackwoman.com or come on over to the Facebook group and share it there. And remember, friend, this is part 2 of our series on resilience in an age of division. And next time, in part 3, we'll talk about tangible coping strategies, how to walk through the storm, even while the storm is still raging. And let me say this. Processing grief like this shouldn't be done in isolation. Yes, your friends and your family can be supportive, but there's nothing like communing with other women who know exactly what it feels like. Maybe someone is battling the same thing you are at work, or battling the same thing that you are with their friends who look different than they do. Inside of our Bounce Back Black Woman Facebook community, we discuss and grow and heal and share together. So if you've been looking for a safe, encouraging space, a private space to process what's heavy and celebrate what's hopeful, that is the place for you. You can check the show notes for a direct link or simply go to Facebook and search groups for Bounce Back Black Woman. We would love to have you. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I really hope this episode inspired, encouraged, or just plain comforted you. If so, please share it with a friend who might be struggling in her own healing journey. And if you take a moment to leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, you'll help other women find encouragement through their heartbreak. Remember that God is holding your hand along this journey. And guess what? I'm holding the other. Life is short, so bounce back, Black woman.